been teaching overseas, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I have been, but not today. But I've been on a community practice call and another mastermind call today already. So no time for the wicked.
Yeah, it took me a while to get used to European breakfast. Having dessert in the morning is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm good with my granola and milk.
Toast and jam, man. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
I try to just to do bacon and eggs is usually what I do. Two pieces of bacon, two eggs. It's good breakfast.
Protein overload.
And I'm trying to start this intermittent fasting, which says I shouldn't eat anything until lunch.
Well, I haven't started any fasting, but I'm still not eating anything until lunch, it seems.
Yeah, well, my feeling is given my metabolism, I can do all the fasting I want. It's not going to make a difference.
Agreed.
I hit that 55 and I got the same problem.
I'm totally conflicted because I just watched a YouTube video with some healthy people talking about healthy things, but then all I've managed to put in myself today is half a deck of toffee face.
There you go. Love it.
The college breakfast.
That's right. I might take another hit over here. I'll be curious as to why in the afternoon I'm like, I got a bad feeling. Okay,
Well, the funny thing is that, you know, you can take all this great advice, but the fact is if you go out anywhere, like go to a coffee shop, try and find something healthy to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you like some carbs, some sugar, or some carbs?
Or some carbs and sugar.
400% your intake of caffeine.
Morning, Michael.
we're kind of creatures of habit, and my conversations with Devin and with other people who approach marketing and education and from a systematic standpoint, I just think the problem is with the students, and then they're stuck in perpetual fight or flight, working in their business, never working on their business. You could have the solution right in front of them, and for some reason there's this just cognitive block of like they can't see that implementing that or investing in some effort would actually be the solution to their problem. Instead, like, I'm too busy for that.
Yeah. Well, I found this reminds me kind of of grad school because of the healthy diet stuff. I just accepted reality. So I did up this, the Canada Food Guide thing, 4 basic food groups. Well, I did the grad school 4 basic food group guides. So it was caffeine, sugar, alcohol, and grease.
I can tell you, I just was messaging some friends from the school I went to, Alberta College of Art and Design, is hiring in the faculty in the design department that I graduated from. So I reposted it and I tagged some people I graduated with 15 or however many years ago. And I was joking, all the inside jokes just flowed naturally. But one of them was just about vending machines. At the start of the semester, everybody has these high ideals. They're bringing packed lunches. They comb their hair. They're wearing fashionable clothes. But by the end of it, there's literally people sleeping for 3 days in sweatpants, eating nothing except for vending machine fodder. It's like, all those ideals come crashing down. I'd love to have a copy of your poster, actually. Grad school food groups.
Well, that's the overworked professionals 4 basic food groups, I'd say now.
Nothing changes. It's just you go from one chaos world to another chaos world.
Anyway, we're 5 minutes in. Hopefully we had a bunch more people registered, so hopefully they'll join in as we get going. But I do want to get us through lots of material today, and most importantly, we're presenting these as network shops. So we're going to be spending probably about half of our time in group discussion with all of you, sharing your own perspectives and ideas and experiences. And I find that's where personally I get the most value from these, as opposed to the the traditional webinar type of thing. So this will not be that. So gentlemen, you're going to have a chance to put on your thinking caps and be full-on participants. And I want to get to that as quickly as we can. So my name's Brad Gollin. I'm the chief, CEVO is my company, and I'm the chief evolution officer. So I'm an executive conscious change agent and a team coach, plus a serial entrepreneur. So I'm on my 8th startup, and on the consulting side, I've been doing pretty much full time for the last 12 years and on and off for many, many, many years. And then Devin, do you want to introduce yourself?
I don't have nearly as fancy a title. I just picked president. That sounded right to me, but I'm reconsidering that. I am the president of Seven Tree Media Company. We specialize in helping businesses create content to communicate with their customers in the online space for the purposes of marketing and generating new customers. I used to run a record label, so a lot of this stuff came from trying to sell the unsellable and realizing that there was a lot of translatable skills, tools, tips, tricks, all that kind of stuff that works over here. And rather than trying to make money off of broke musicians and starving also myself, I decided to bring this to a place where there was, thriving businesses looking to basically look for ways for growth hacking and growth marketing. So that's how I met Brad and how we put this presentation together.
Thanks, Devin. So to give this some context, within the work that we do, there's an entire kind of framework that we've developed called growth marketing. And growth marketing is really a full life cycle when it comes to growing the business. And it starts off with business development and strategy. And business development is game-changing strategic initiatives that grow the company. It's not what we call salesmen today. It's a pet peeve. So when I say BD, I mean the real definition of business development, which is really growth for the company. So developing strategy, and then strategy basically going into execution mode. Is one of the quotes Coupler I love says, the key to success, it's 2% inspiration, 98% perspiration. And really it is the execution of those strategies. And that's really what today is about. When we talk about executing marketing strategies, marketing campaigns, programs, that's really when we get into the execution. And then that feeds into sales. The better we market, the easier it is for sales to do their job, which is, kind of make the kill. And then this idea of growth hacking is delivering and measuring. So data-driven is kind of the lesson learned from COVID in 2020. We're finding that best practices from the McKinseys and all the great thought leaders in business today is telling us that really where we need to move to is data-driven marketing and data-driven decisions. And so that's one of the things about growth marketing and marketing campaigns and programs is now, the model in some respects is simplified. It's really just focus. You can't do it all. Don't worry about doing it all. Focus on the wildly important. Focus on what's going to make the biggest difference. Act on measures. So this is really talking about when you're designing your marketing campaigns, when you're designing your strategies, make sure that there's measures and metrics in them. Because we can't afford just to throw money at marketing anymore. We have to make sure that we're getting a return on our investment and a return on our marketing dollar. So that means there needs to be measures, and we need to act and adapt and be agile in using this. And having a scorecard so everyone knows where we stand, what's working, what's not, and creating a discipline, because when you're doing marketing, it's kind of like agile development. You go in sprints, and there's a discipline to doing this because it's not a one and done approach. Marketing and growth hacking is an ever evolving continuous thing, and it requires a discipline. So basically, when you start into developing and executing, you've got to have real clarity in terms of your brand and how you're positioning. Because really, when we talk about marketing campaigns, it's about communicating and getting the message out there. But all of your messaging is really creating and building your brand. So you've got to really have clarity of what your brand is. What do we stand for? How do we want to be seen? You know, what is our brand promise? You know, the three big marketing questions we always have to answer in all of our communications. Why should they care? What's in it for them? Why should they believe us? And those things need to speak to our target market's needs, but they also need to align with our brand promise. And that needs to align with our purpose, because really our purpose is to fulfill needs. So, you know, quite often when we think about how do we want to define our brand, listening and discussing with our customers, our target market, understanding the words they use and what's most important to them and how their needs are evolving and what they see as being crucial. And then what we want to do is, as I outline here, we need to qualify and then we need to quantify. And that really is, the customer can have 20 needs, but we need to prioritize them. Which ones make the biggest difference? Which one are the game changers? And really it's again about getting focused. Don't meet all the needs, focus on the ones that matter, that truly matter, that move the dial for them, because that will move the dial for us. So when we talk about brand promotion, when we understand, you know, what our brand is, what the needs are, and then we have to speak to those needs. And again, why should they care? What's in it for them? Why should they believe us? And that needs to be underlying, kind of implicit within all of the messaging, the content, the approach. Always remembering that we're building and reinforcing our brand or distracting from it, and will our messaging be effective to get the desired outcomes? So when we talk about brand promotion, it's so much bigger than it used to be. You know, now the whole online marketing aspect, you know, it's unlike we've ever seen in history before, because basically I think today and since COVID, the new normal is online is the #1 channel for marketing. Period. But we need to do it smarter. And so many people really don't understand what that means. And that's some of what Devin is really kind of, I think, make much more transparent today. So in terms of brand promotion, this is really just a checklist to outline all of the things that we need to think of and incorporate into our marketing program, marketing campaign strategy and execution. And again, when we talk growth hacking, which is kind of a new trend and a new phrase around marketing, the whole idea of growth hacking is really putting a lot more emphasis on the data, making it data-driven marketing programming. So, you know, sometimes we kind of think, oh, this is going to work great, or I love this campaign. I think this one really is gonna you know, kind of inspire people or influence people, etc. Well, those gut feels, you know, I found in my marketing BD roles, a lot of times that's what we had to go by. And, you know, you get the odd customer saying, you know, what they loved or what worked for them. But we've got to be much more efficient upfront, planning things so that we have data, can capture data, and use that to continuously refine and improve our messaging, our programs, and again, our cost effectiveness in terms of growing our business. So when we talk about marketing, growth marketing, there's kind of two, when we get into the execution phase, there's really kind of two things that we build in executing on our growth marketing strategies. One is we develop on the marketing side, we develop marketing programs. And we also then develop marketing campaigns. And the easiest way, I think, to describe that is a program is really a long-term approach. So a program can consist of numerous marketing campaigns to deliver and progressively take the target market along somewhat of a journey to get them to kind of an end behavior and end outcome that we want, ideally to become customers. So that really is kind of simply put, program is a longer term plan of action. A campaign is a short term systematic set of activities to deliver on a specific progressive outcome. Let's call it that. So when we talk about this, typically when we talk about programs and campaigns, there's creating a brand and product awareness. Really, we want to create awareness, then progress along kind of a more and more impactful levels of engagement with the client. And we want to generate leads that become opportunities, opportunities that become sales. And that really is, simply put, and I think all of us know this. But again, I think that the challenge we all have is this knowing doing gap. We know this, but are we actually applying this discipline to how we're approaching our own marketing, as opposed to just, I saw a good article, I think I'll just repost it and just kind of continuously do what we think is marketing, but is it working? We're keeping ourselves busy, but I wonder sometimes how much my busy is working for me. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of frame out our first discussion kind of from that perspective. Is our marketing working? Do we have a plan, and are we working to that plan? So I just kind of want to do a little bit of a discussion around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to take 2 minutes and just answer the two questions. Have you clearly defined your target market and your brand position? And I want you to score yourself 1 to 10. 1 is nope, and 10 is got it nailed. So have you clearly defined your target market and your brand position? Rate yourself 1 to 10. And what is your growth marketing strategy for 21-21? So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to just kind of write down your thoughts to that. And then I'm going to go around the table and I'm going to ask everyone to share what they've got down. When you go to share, what I'd like to do is before you share your answers, if you can just kind of give a little bit of an introduction, who you are, your company, and what you do. This is where I need a soundtrack of elevator music. Okay, I'm going to get us started here. Ben, you look pretty relaxed, so I'm going to pick on you first. If you want to lead us off, can you introduce yourself, tell us a little about you, and then what your answers are?
Sure. Yeah, no worries. So Ben Scheidler, I'm kind of operating as TWAS management right now, but just self-employed, really. The kind of coach, consultant, process improvement guy. I've done uh, a lot in the construction industry over the last decade, from project management, lean management, and quality management. And so that's kind of my target market, is really the construction industry. But specifically, if I was to laser focus it in, it really comes down into I want to really target the owners and buyers of construction services. So the people that are building and paying for the buildings, because I've seen that and I've seen the problems, I've seen the challenges, so I understand what how I can bring value to them in their projects. So that I think so. I've got a hierarchy of that. So I think I'm fairly well identified that. What is my growth marketing strategy? This is where I'm a little less laser focused on. It's trying to kind of a shotgun approach right now of different things. I've got some LinkedIn stuff that I'm going and putting out and trying to provide value out there. Some of my own content that I'll post there, that I'm posting on my website. And I just started yesterday. I identified of my contacts that I have, because I've been, as I said, been working in the construction industry for a decade. I have 1,000 contacts in that industry, and I identified all the decision makers of companies in those contacts. So people that were presidents, vice presidents, general managers, whatnot. And I sent them a message yesterday, and I said, hey, wow, this year's been crazy. Like, what are you guys doing for next year? Let's have a virtual coffee, 15 minutes. Attached kind of a little doodle calendar and said, here, just book a 15-minute coffee with me, and we'll see what each other are doing, and maybe there's some synergy we can have this year. And so that's the newest campaign and in 24 hours, I've had 2 people actually use the doodle poll to set coffees up. I've got one that basically says, contact me after Christmas. And I got one that I'm having a coffee with it too. So that's, we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you. Aaron, do you want to go next?
Thank you. My name's Aaron Russell. I'm a graduate of the Alberta College of Art and Design in 2004, done graphic design and marketing. I've always been sort of a mix of freelance and in-house, probably over that length of time, probably 70-80% freelance. Although the last 2 years, I've taken a gig with Alberta Health Services as a media producer, which has been a lifesaver because I'm a sole breadwinner of 5, so our burn rate's pretty big. On the side, in the last 3-4 years, I've put myself into the market as a graphic recorder, which is a person who attends meetings and is a tool that a facilitator could use to capture live event proceedings. I'm a doodle guy in the corner of a convention hall playing live Pictionary for a living. And COVID has really upended, as you're aware, the hospitality industry and those live events. And so I'm to the point now where, because of my graphic design background, I've been able to respond with my digital skills. And I am confident that my offering in terms of doing live digital event graphic recording is pretty snappy, and I make explainer videos. I wouldn't give myself a very high score. I'd be pretty low score, only because I'm a technician who from time to time will have an entrepreneurial seizure, but the rigor that's required of managers and true entrepreneurs is high. And so I have a lot of respect for people who keep the lights on and make it possible for other people to have a paycheck. But I'm a pretty a better technician than I am an entrepreneur. For 2021, I have noted that I feel good, and there's opportunity to focus on Indigenous work, truth and reconciliation work. There is there's a lot of opportunity there. So I'm really excited about 2021 because I'm doing a piece of work right now for some people at the University of Alberta about a piece of legislation, and I'm having a good time with it. And I hope that in the new year, as that content gets out there, that it's well received. And why I really am a big fan about it is the testimonials that I'm getting back from the clients is that it's more of a demonstrable impact that they're seeing with the people who they want to move the needle with. There's greater understanding. There's less intimidation by the law. There's more confidence on the part of the nations to ask questions. And so it's really wonderful for me to have found a place where we can talk about art and doodling in a more objective, data-driven sort of way. So that's been really exciting. This time next year, I hope to, who knows, I'd like to work myself out of the AHS job, but I'd have to be doing a pretty good job to beat that kind of security. But I think it might happen.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks.
And actually, I would describe you differently. To me, you're a solopreneur.
Yes.
So you do have a business. You've got a very viable business, and you've been, growing it and evolving it for a number of years now. So I'd give yourself some credit. I think solopreneurs is really the future. And as a matter of fact, you want data. MIT just released their latest version of the future of work, and solopreneurs is the future of work. They estimate that it's going to be 50% of the workforce in the next couple of years. So pat yourself on the back. You're just a trendsetter.
I'll take it. I really appreciate that.
Excellent. Michael, do you want to go next?
Good day. Sure. Thank you, Brad. Of course, I do a bit of consulting work with Brad and Robert. So on the side, when there is some time to do that, of course. Main focus, I've been an entrepreneur since about 95 and in various industries. Been involved as an angel investor, advisor, sat on the National Angel Capital Organization board for a term. My current full-time gig is Insol Health. We have a unique branded product called Sol's Quick Dissolving Strips. You're familiar with Listerine breath papers that you stick in you pull out of a cassette, freshens your breath. We can medicate that technology. The technology is called Oral Thin, and it's classified as a drug delivery technology. So by simulating the strip melts on your tongue, the particular active gets into your bloodstream within 2 to 5 minutes. Massive population who can't swallow pills, a massive population who are pill fatigued, don't want to swallow pills, and even namely children and seniors. So you look at Alberta Health Services too, you look at where I think they're still using pill crushers for some of the senior markets. That creates a bit of a challenge too, where if someone doesn't properly clean the pill crusher, there might still be some sediments on that pill crusher that might be allergic to the next patient. We've currently got 5 products in the market. We have another 10 ready to get branded. And that's where we stand. We are a Canadian headquarters. We have an American subsidiary, and we're focused on the US is our primary market. We have an online store called solsstrips.com. We just opened up our Amazon store. Can't beat them, join them. We've got that rocking and rolling as well. And for our current valuation, we're very fortunate. We've got a great marketing guru on our team. He did digital marketing for GM for about 8 years. He's based out of our Toronto location and does a great job on digital and challenges us. If we want to go this route, he'll bring us back in. So currently on the efforts, I'd say we're probably an 8. In effort, we're probably closer to a 10. For the future of 2021, we've got several customers. We have a B2C, so of course is the online world. Primary target, primary caregiver would be number 1. And then people who are active, people who are into health and wellness. And on the B2B market, we're probably more focused on the tier 2s and tier 3 retailers in the US. such as Albertsons, Kroger's. We do have Walgreens, CVS on the map. Most of the U.S. buyers are sitting at home. They are displaying reordering current inventory right now. So that's the challenge we'll have for 2021. And on the foreign markets, I'm going to call them B2I, business to international. We've got about 12 international countries that want to start ordering product once COVID kind of gets out of the way. So it's kind of where we're at.
So Michael, you described your strategy kind of looks like it's kind of multi-pronged. In your B2B, is that really kind of a channel strategy?
It's a channel strategy for sure, absolutely. Probably some of the marketing that we would target there. Progressive Grocery, a big publication. Drugstore News, they're a large media group which would have digital campaigns. Once we take on a channel and we get some, let's say we secure, let's say Walgreens, we'll have some additional marketing support that we have to provide Walgreens to help them get that off there as well. So you have a kind of your main focus on that B2B, but you'd have that secondary marketing you'd have to help them support, provided we can measure the data, right, and get the right returns that we expect to get, that turn into revenue. And making sure we're not doing anything that's a random act of marketing. So it'll be strategic and focused on making sure that it's the right effective marketing with that group.
So are those bigger distributors? Are they kind of pushing you into pilots to try before they buy type of thing, or how are they approaching it?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, yes and no on that one, Brad. Good question. In some cases, most of them have to get pushed back. So let's say we're dealing with the Walgreens and CVS. Once they show interest, it then gets pushed back to 3 main distributors. These 3 giants kind of control that middle ground, such as Cardinal Health, McKesson, AmerisourceBergen. So they get their cut out of the puzzle as well. In some cases, the direct store distributors, and there's lots of those in the US versus Canada, they would start off with a test pilot. They would pick, maybe 3 or 4 geographical regions where a Walgreens or a CVS they now just do it nationally. They don't worry about doing a regional test pilot. They go full bore nationally with their campaigns. So it's different in every case, I know.
Michael, do you have a direct to consumer campaign put together as well, or are you looking only for retail storefront space?
We do. With our online stores, we do. We have a steady flow of Facebook, Google, Instagram, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. So the team, including our shareholders, will make sure that they're always coming on to like the weekly posts if they're active in social media, and of course populate that throughout their network as well. So we do have that on a regular basis for sure.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Robert, do you want to go next?
You bet, absolutely. Sorry about that. I had to leave because my fan just kicked in and wouldn't shut off. So if it comes back on again, I might have to leave. At least I can mute when I'm done. To answer your 2 questions, first, I think I'm about an 8 out of 10 in terms of defining my target market. I'm really close. I think I'm close, but not 100% yet. In terms of the strategies for next year, well, any growth is good growth for me next year. So that's where I'm focused. But we've got a number of programs between Brad and myself, and then myself on my own. I've got a number of different programs that campaigns, if you will, with a strategy with some campaigns behind it. One of them is the YouTube channel that Brad and I are developing currently on our Mexit program, which is the maximizing the value of your exit, which is helping business owners prepare their businesses for a successful sale. I've got a number of campaigns around that. One is in terms of talking to trusted advisors, getting relationships and building strategic partnerships with trusted advisors, accountants, lawyers, financial advisors. And the other one, of course, is good old marketing. Phone people up, tell them what you do. So I've been creating a database of the various types of people I need to be talking to and want to be talking to, which are my target market as well as those strategic partners. So that's kind of where I'm at, and it's consuming a lot of my time right now getting ready for 2021 because nobody wants to talk to me right now. Oh, there is another part to it, and the other part to it is the value add, the pro bono give back to the community piece that Brad and I have been doing all year, which is developing content that we can deliver to local businesses around the province through their economic development and chambers of commerce that can help small business owners in the regions help themselves essentially. So we've been quite successful in contracting with the various economic development offices and chambers around the province to deliver that content, and we're working on a couple more at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert.
You bet.
So before we move on, I just want to see if anyone has questions for anybody else kind of in the room. I'll just kind of throw open the mic to anybody. After hearing kind of what each other are all doing, any thoughts or questions for each other in terms of some of our strategies, what we're doing? Do you see any kind of things that might be kind of strategic between each other? So let me just put out to you guys.
Funny you mentioned that because I had a really good conversation with quite a successful consultant up in Red Deer yesterday who does what Brad and I are doing, but he does it only for partnerships and in the accounting industry. And he made a really good comment. He said, find the people that you want, find the people that work with the people you want to work with and align yourselves with them. So that is pretty much in line with what Brad and I are trying to do with our strategic partnership piece. But even for you, Ben, find the people who are working with those companies already and get yourself organized with them. Same with you, Aaron. I mean, align yourselves with Indigenous relations people, right? And find ways to become well known to them so that they can be your advocate.
Yeah, because I was thinking, Aaron, the work that you do, you know, that being able to create graphic content, because it actually, I think, is much more compelling and much more influential than articles and text. I think the video is much more effective, but it comes at a cost. But that being said, I can see applications for what you do kind of even embedded within the stuff that Devin and I are talking about. So I think there's lots of opportunities, you know, even just within this discussion around kind of strategic complementary alliances or complementary service type of opportunities. One of my clients, they have 153 First Nations as clients. And they're in the legal profession. Another company I've worked, a past client, they're in the stakeholder engagement world. So again, I think a lot of that stakeholder engagement, some of the stuff that you talked about, could complement there. And Ben, even for you, a lot of my clients are in the engineering construction area, more in the engineering side. But as you know, for the kind of stuff that you're doing, you know, that whole life cycle, they all have a factor, and they all kind of point at each other and say, oh, well, they have to make that decision. But between the architects, the engineers, the general contractors, and the building owners, you've got a lot of people to influence in your work.
Yeah, there definitely is a lot of people there, and I'm trying to touch a bunch of them. Yeah. Good groups of people.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Well, I'm going to cut this. So let's keep going. And I'm actually going to hand the mic over to Devin. And Devin, do you want to take us away?
Okay, I'm going to grab or request the control or whatever, the remote. Did you get that? Oh, whoops. Go back. Previous. Okay, here we go. So a lot of what I'm hearing from everybody is that there's a heavy reliance on networks, relationships, and having people inside of those networks that you're going to inevitably serve to some degree, which is a huge part of the whole growth marketing thing. The thing that I think would add a little bit of value here is there was a couple of directions I could have taken with this presentation. So the thing, my main focus is going to be on the purposes of kind of expanding that network, building that network, and reaching more people that can, whether they're in direct competition that know people you want to serve, or if it's going direct to consumer, especially in Michael's case. There's a huge opportunity on a variety of different social media platforms. So we kind of have this growth map here that we've developed that has 3 stages. This first stage right here is kind of planting the seeds, getting to know people, reaching them with stuff that they need to be reached. This next stage is kind of nurturing that growth and building those relationships in more intentional ways through the online channels that we have access to. And then finally, just kind of harvesting the fruits of our labors there by being able to actually inspire people to take action based on what it is that we've put in front of them. So I would assert that there is 3 pillars to what makes a successful marketing campaign and what brings people in or attracts people into you and your business. So the first one is the platform, and this is where your prospect is spending the time. So I would also liken this to where are people's attentions, right? It used to be the platforms were it could be flyers, it could be newspapers, could be radio, television, billboards, bus benches, that kind of stuff. And although there is still a degree of effectiveness there, the attention isn't really there anymore, especially considering, you can fast forward TV commercials, you change the stations on the radio, flyers literally end up on the trash before they make it back to their, kitchen table. So the attention now is in the device in their hand. The people are scrolling on their cell phone, and if you can interrupt that pattern with something, then you have somebody's attention. And when you have somebody's attention, you get the opportunity now to bring value to them. And so that's the second pillar, which is the conversation. So what you're doing now to engage with those people and deliver value to those people in a meaningful way. Now, let's say in Ben's case, sending out an email, hey, let's get on a chat and let's talk and all that kind of stuff. It's a very personal relationship. But if you sent that same email to a stranger, the chances that they're going to take advantage of that is probably slim to none. It's most likely you're going to end up in the spam or ignored or whatever. So there's like a finite resource there when you're relying on that, the network that you have access to. So this is about kind of creating conversations outside of your network and then attracting those people in. And then finally, the last pillar is the offer that you want to be able to make to those people. So you kind of leverage that the value that you've been delivering to your audience, and then use that to kind of develop more leads and then turn those leads into sales. Does that resonate with everybody? Are we all kind of on the same page there? Yeah, cool. So here we go. Oops, too far. So the one thing that after talking to everybody that I've ever talked to in this industry, there's always 3 major problems that most people face. The first problem is that the traditional stuff isn't working. We've kind of already established the reasons why. There's no attention there, so we kind of have to go where the attention is. The other problem is that when people make stuff to put online, it's either very time consuming or the stuff that gets out there isn't doing anything. And if you've ever boosted a post or ran a Facebook ad or any of those types of things, you've probably had this experience where people just aren't paying attention to you and nothing's happening. And you're spending a great deal of time trying to reach people and make this content. And it's frustrating. And most people just kind of give up once they kind of realize that they don't know what they're doing, right? So we developed the sustainable content model as a method for communicating with people in a predictable way that brings and delivers value to the people prospecting, to the people that are looking or in your space or trying to learn more about what you do. So the idea is to consistently create content in a meaningful way that provides value to the people that you're looking to serve. Use that content to build an audience of people who are interested, and then you kind of, cherry pick out of that audience by using very contextual offers to those groups of people that will entice them to make a decision. So I'm going to use Michael as an example here. Let's just say there's a huge benefit in using the strips as opposed to using pills. And if there was a way that we could communicate in a predictable way with a group of people over and over again about, all of the different benefits here, the health and this and that. And then let's say a small sector of that group is people that are, into fitness. And one of the things that you can offer them is, strips that produce or give vitamins, for example. I'm spitballing because I don't really know exactly what you do, Michael, but let's say that there was a vitamin strip that was specifically for fitness people. Well, you can target that group of people now inside of your audience with that very specifically contextually, and then those people are going to take advantage of it. But if you try and say, well, a bunch of fitness people swallowing pills is tough, it's not going to resonate. And so this is about kind of, as Brad had mentioned, data-driven development of creating content and putting it in front of the right people. So does everybody follow there on that? Okay.
Very precise.
So now,
Yeah.
after we kind of have that content and
I was just going to say, part of our, as you get into the, let's call it dysphagia, people who can't swallow, like medically, could be Parkinson's or autism. So we have some special little micro targeted campaigns for that demographic.
yeah, and this gives you that opportunity to segment your overall audience into, each one of those different subsectors, right? So the next step kind of in our process would be to map out the path, and we call this the customer experience path, or the more commonly referred to as a sales funnel. So where do people discover you? How do they, what kind of value do they expect or need from you in order to make a decision? How do you prove that you're an authority in your space? And then finally, what kind of call to action can you inspire them to take? What can you get them to do that's going to be predictable? And then once you have that established, you can kind of test and tweak all of the different elements of each one of the steps of that. So let's say high level here, Facebook ad to a landing page. That landing page has a very specific offer that a certain group of people inside of that offer are going to be interested in some kind of an upsell, maybe like a bulk deal. And then finally, a thank you page. And so that's kind of what we're referring to when we talk about the customer experience map. So just making sure that every step that a customer takes going from discovery to opening their wallet and giving you money is very predictable and measured, and we can keep control over that and inevitably optimize it. So, so there's a bit of a delay when I click, so I'm just waiting for the next slide here. Whoops. Here we go. Okay, so inside of our 3X growth map, we start with targeting the right audience, which is kind of what we were mentioning, what Brad was mentioning at the very beginning here. We target the right audience. We plan content in a sustainable way that's going to reach them, so you're not guessing. You basically get a Costco bulk bin of content that you can pick from and use it to test your hypothesis when it comes to your messaging, and then you create that content and get it out there. The next step is to create that funnel and make sure that you have everything in place now for the predictable steps the customer is going to take. You distribute that content and then measure the results from your ad campaigns. And then finally, you create contextual offers now to retarget that group of people so that you can optimize this process. So everything here is all, as Brad mentioned, data-driven. It's all intentional. We're trying things out, we're measuring them, and we're doing them with micro budgets. I worked with a business that so they do home security systems. They spent $5,000 on a direct mail out to a very hyper targeted neighborhood, and saw 0% return on that ad campaign, going, just doing that direct mail out flyer. Nothing, absolutely nothing. So when we started moving their same messaging into online, we were able to actually, see what people were engaging. What demographic are they? Are they young people who need these security systems? Are they old people who need it? Are people more interested in life alert, or are they more interested in the 24/7 fire management? So we were able to divide up their solutions and specifically target who it was exactly that was actually taking action on the offers that we were creating. Another example, House of Cars, we did a podcast for them. So we created a long form podcast inside of the 20-minute conversation where they were talking about financing or something. We repurposed it. So we chunked out little 1 to 2 minute segments of their videos and put it out. In one video, they talked about college kids trying to build credit, but they also talked about people who have bad credit. And the messaging there is very different on both sides. And so the offer that each one of those different people are going to need are very different. And so it helped them be able to kind of micro segment up their audience and create those offers more intentionally. Same thing happened with Ascendant Financial. They did a long form podcast where there's a lot more education in what it is that they're trying to create. So I helped them with their first 10 podcasts, just so that they could see what the process was. And now they're talking about these high overarching ideas, educating the general public. And then they run a secondary ad campaign to anybody that was interested in that, saying, hey, let's get on a meeting or a webinar or whatever, and let's talk a little bit more in depth about solutions that fit you. Finally, this was my favorite one. Actually, it's my ex-wife's tattoo business. So don't worry, we're friends still. It's good. She had this dream of becoming a tattoo artist, and she never believed that she could actually make it happen. And, in the early stages of my career, becoming a marketer, I took some of the principles that I learned in a lot of the courses that I was taking. I started applying it into what she was doing. And so what we did was created a website. It was just a landing page. It said, hey, get a $100 gift card from us. Here's some of the work that we've done. Just give us a name and email. We'll get in touch with you. We'll send you that gift card. We ran targeted ads to people in Calgary interested in tattoos. That's pretty much all we did. And then we created some high-speed drawing videos, and we got people interested in what she was creating. And then we retargeted them with those gift card offers. And we went from zero, absolutely zero, in-home tattoo studio to getting about 5 to 10 leads a day, which translated into about 2 or 3 customers every day for her. So she went from nothing to about $800 a day in revenue, just being on her own with her own tattoo chair in a bedroom in our house. So the idea is create that high value content, put it in front of the right people, measure the kind of results that you're getting, make sure you have an intentional funnel to follow, and then create offers that people are going to be interested in. If you fail on that first one, you're only spending $10 or $20. Like the budget we had for the tattoo studio was $10 a day. So it's not like $5,000 gamble, fingers crossed, hope this is working. It's a very intentional program, as Brad had mentioned, about how we create these individual campaigns and use them to measure our results and make sure that what we're doing is actually working effectively. So Brad, I guess I'll have you kind of step in now and lead this next group discussion after that rant. Is there anybody have any questions about that? I hope that was clear.
Actually, we can get into details on that in this discussion. So
Okay.
let's kind of embed the questions you might have into the discussion itself. So this time, again, I want you to self-reflect before we start into a full discussion. Based on what you've heard, the model, 3-phase model that Devin presented, what do you think, how can you see applying that model? Or could you apply that model to enhance your own growth marketing? So what I'd like you to think about is could you apply that to what you're doing? What, from your perspective, is the biggest challenge? And kind of where are you getting started when it comes to 2021? So I thought I'd put on a little background music.
This is perfect.
Okay, enough background music. Actually, Aaron, I'm going to get you to start this time. Do you want to kind of lead us off? Kind of, how does this relate to what you're doing? What are your thoughts?
I'm having a hard time staying disciplined enough to keep my thoughts focused on what it is that I said I do and who my target is. My brain's kind of all over the place. So I need to, I'd like to spend more time with those three phases. I've had experiences with those things from a past life of doing marketing for a dental office and a lot of health and wellness tribes. So the role that co-created content plays is always something that's interesting to me. But back to my people, I guess I'm trying to think of what would be valuable content for facilitators who are working with Indigenous communities that positions me to be able to solve that problem. Other than the testimonials, I mean, I guess that's the reason why what I'm hearing from this one client is so exciting, is because I get that people like what I do. I get that it's fun. And even there's some anecdotes about things being memorable, but their testimonials are greater than what I could have imagined from you're outperforming a studio that charged us. I mean, I talked with them and I was sort of jaded about it because there's a lot about my industry. Like I'm an artist servicing marketing types, but all that brand awareness that you talked about at the start with no real demonstrable ROI or key performance indicators that sort of pad the egos of the marketing agencies, leave business owners empty-handed 18 months after the fact, are not doing anybody any favors. And so I joked to this client and said, yeah, a lot of people, they'll make something that the metric has been designed to serve them as opposed to serve the customer. That relationship's not sustainable, even though they can keep their hands clean and say, oh, we did exactly what we said we're going to do for 18 months. Look, here's all of our reports and our metrics. And I'm like, that's great, but a true relationship would be built with some measures that you've learned. So the micro testing, you're learning and tweaking and continually asking, are we measuring the right thing? Is the true objective being achieved? Not mine, but yours as the client. So I guess the answer is I don't know yet, but my gut tells me that something really, really good is happening when what I'm finding out is that as a solopreneur, I'm outperforming full agencies that have charged 6 figures for videos that fell flat, even though they won awards. And it makes me excited. It makes me feel like, oh, I'm coming for you guys. and the difference is, sorry, I'm having a hard time staying on track, but the difference is actually the niche, because there's a lot of explainer video that you can buy and a lot of more reasonably priced than having me hand draw everything. But I don't think that what I'm doing is actually has as much to do with the fact that I can draw as that I can generate appropriate metaphors, and artificial intelligence can't do that. You can upload your scripts online and free platforms will grab clip art and actually assemble an explainer video for you. But there's a symbiotic, greater than sum of its parts dance between what you hear and what you see that comes from contextually putting things in the visual that are not in the audio, but that together are magic. And so I'm getting some traction with that. It's expensive stuff. It's obscenely time consuming, but I would assert that in certain situations, not unlike, Devin, you're talking about video content. I actually, at the beginning with this client, talked about Hero Hub and Help content and saying, she gave me a 51-minute presentation. And I said, well, let's break it down and find the hero moments, and I'll execute the hero moments. Those haven't got a snowball's chance in hell on social media, these 90-minute or 90-second bits, and pull people back into that other content. Anyways, I don't know, but I really appreciate having the opportunity to think about all of what I've done in the past and what I'm doing now with Devin, with those steps. I could spend some time, and I'm actually looking forward to over the Christmas holiday, spending time with each of those 3 phases of the 3 steps in the 3 phases, and thinking about my answer to that question. Sorry.
Well, it's interesting because to me, what you're offering is stories that work.
Wow.
You know, because at the end of the day, First Nations, the energy sector, I can think of many, many sectors that have been completely ineffective in getting their story out and being able to influence the public perception and public support.
I put one on LinkedIn the other day, just as an example, and this is kind of jaded. It wasn't really there. I tagged some people on LinkedIn that are way too high up in the C-suite to actually come on and make a comment, but I thought it was entertaining nonetheless. And I positioned Alberta as being like Cinderella, locked away in her cupboard with these stepsisters. Like, when I fly into Vancouver and I look down and I see all the coal ready to export, or whether I see Saudi tankers in the St. Lawrence, like, I just have a hard time feeling Canadian if what being Canadian means is condescending to this redheaded stepchild stuck up in the loft there with her, roughneck mice. For decades, she's worn this tattered old gown that she manages to put together. But you know what? She's going to spoil the gala. She's going to spoil the ball, not by showing up with tomatoes or like an air raid horn, but she's just not going to show up to do her work in cleaning the palace. Anyways, so to me, I'm like, I'd love to see that cartoon. But anyways, those are the kind of metaphors that when I think about, I chuckle and laugh.
Well,
you know what, Aaron, there's an opportunity actually that I'm just kind of uncovering as you talk. Are you guys all familiar with the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yes. Yeah.
So what Joe Rogan does, he's got 4 hours of him and somebody else talking about whatever it is they're talking about, aliens and whatever else. But inside of that 4 minutes, there's always a bunch of things that are really, really great. And they take those and they chunk them down into 10-minute or 5-minute pieces. And they put it on a completely separate YouTube channel. And that separate YouTube channel is the Joe Rogan Experience clips. And that's all they call it. But then they do it even more. They take those clips and then they find the funniest or the most outrageous ones. And then they create cartoons. And this is JRE cartoons or something, and it's a completely another channel. So from that 4-hour conversation, he gets hundreds of pieces of content. And I wonder, Aaron, if there's something that you could create inside of when we have conversations, or you have conversations with other people, you create small just 5-minute or 2-minute little clips of you doing what you do, and then just create that as your sustainable content, because you're already doing it, right? And then some little call to action at the very end that says, if you like this, if this worked for you, let's talk about how I can make it work for, whatever else you're creating. And then use that to perpetuate your incoming client base. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm running to catch up. I love Joe's content and trying to reconcile the heavy lifting required to make those watchable bits. But it's exciting. It makes me feel excited about.
Well, I think there's a big opportunity here. You being a content creator, basically what does every business need? And I can think of, there's an initiative in the energy sector being led by June Warren, and I know some of the associations on it. CRIN is the kind of new association they formed around it. And it's around ESG, environmental social governance, and portraying ourselves differently, all this kind of stuff. But you got a whole bunch of engineers and accountants and scientific types, and they're the worst storytellers in the world. Yeah. If you want a better outcome, the way you get to it is to tell a better story, and that's really what you do. You tell stories that work in terms of making the impression, getting the emotional response that you want, because it's emotional responses that create action, and that's what they need. And that's just because our brain is wired. The limbic brain is the action center of the brain, and it's controlled by emotion. So it's the science, but they're approaching it completely wrong. And in a sense, I think you telling stories about how your approach is much more effective and it will get other people what they want is the marketing campaign that you need to build to sell yourself. You need to eat your own cooking.
Ah,
Tell your own story about what you do and how it gets other people what they want. And I think you've got several micro target markets because I think you can take, again, a partnership approach. Marketers need content. You're the content guy. Only you're the next level of content in terms of effectiveness. And there's, I think, one of our clients we're dealing with right now, we're developing a combination push-pull strategy. So, the push part is directly going after the people who would buy our services. But quite often, what you don't realize is the people aren't necessarily the end clients. They may be the agencies. They may be other kinds of consultants, business advisors. The end consumer, quite often, I think for you, is the organizational executive or business owner type of thing. And that's the pull side is getting out to think of them as the consumer and getting them to believe that, hey, we need better storytelling that's like this. But your access to them, the push part, may be through partners.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some thoughts around that, because then if you kind of take that thinking and then you feed that into Devin's model, then I think that starts to create an opportunity for you to just test out and see, okay, start building micro messages, which ones work, which ones don't, to which segments. And again, I think you got to be careful boiling the ocean, because where is actually money being spent today? Entrepreneurs every entrepreneur needs what you're doing, but they can't afford you.
yeah.
So create relationships with them and strategic partnerships with them.
So they may be good partners, but who's actually got money to spend? And that's probably government. I think the First Nations in some areas, they're getting government funding. So being able to facilitate some of that. Medium to large organizations, especially ones who have lost social license.
Yeah, this year's been exciting to have, the energy companies have had me in there, and I sign NDAs and do some of my best work that I could never show, but it sure is interesting to be a fly in the wall, to hear different groups. I mean, as a professional fly in the wall, I could be in public, private, healthcare, social services, addictions and mental health, post-secondary, or energy on any given day, and listening to different groups talk about their various supermans. They're hoping everybody thinks technology is going to save them. It's fascinating. I really appreciate it. Stories that work. Brad, I'm going to have to,
Hey,
if that URL is available, oh my gosh, because that really landed for me. That's the highlight of this week, is that stories that work.
Good. I'm glad you got something of it. Ben, let's shift over. So what are your thoughts for yourself?
It kind of aligns with where kind of my head's been at recently. I've been in the story brand space for this year, and so and it just very much flows with the discussion we've just been having. And I've really, and this is the shift for me, which is really hard to make, is I still want to be the hero of the story. And how do I reposition myself that my client is the hero and that I'm the guide to help them achieve their story, right? And so, and the languaging around that is really difficult for me to do, because I'm not a great wordsmith. It's not a skill I have yet. So it's like, and so it's a challenge for me. Part of that's just mindset issues as an engineer. I think that, my mindset is that engineers can't write well and can't communicate well, but it's something I'm working on. and that's, yeah, what's their challenge, and what can I do? Part of what, like, kind of the tagline or emotional appeal that I kind of clicked on this week, and I don't know if I'll use it, but it's helping, project managers or project owners sleep at night, right? Because how often are these guys and business owners staying up at night worried that they're not going to be able, the project's going to go late or over budget, or that they're not going to have the funds to pay their people, right? These times, so helping them sleep at night is, I'd like a good restful night's sleep. So that's kind of the frame I'm at this week. I don't know if I'm going to use it, but so that's kind of where I'm at.
It's brilliant that you're already on the track of emotional transformation. That's one of the big principles that I cover a lot, is that, yeah, features and benefits are really great, but what is going to make people create or take action is that emotional response to what happens. So it's good that you're already in that mind state. Keep exploring that.
Yeah, people buy on emotion and they backfill with logic.
Yeah. Wow, that is really good.
Yeah, that's great.
Which ruins every engineer's mind, because we always like to be so rational. But the fact is none of us are wired that way.
No.
Yeah. But engineers like to think they are.
Yeah. We try really hard, but it's still the case. Yeah.
And I think where you're going, I know a lot of the work that I do is kind of, like you said, reframing. If you think that really your role is like a servant leader, your role is as an enabler. And I really like what you described when you talked about, I need to make my customer the hero of the story. So I think starting to dissect your target market, who is the person that you need to truly sell to? Who's the person that you need to win, who's going to make the decision that I need to get Ben in here? And what's keeping them up at night? Because I think one of the big things we have to, and Evan kind of pointed at this, is the difference, particularly in the new normal, the difference between aspirin, Michael, you'd relate to this, versus vitamin pills. Because when things are, and people feel in crisis, under stress, what they're looking for is solutions to their pain. Selling things that are good for them doesn't sell in times of crisis. Selling things that address their fears, their anxieties, their pain points.
Yep.
That's really what they're looking for. And so I think where you're digging below the surface, on time, on budget for a project, well, that's ancient. But really, if it's not on time, it's not on budget, what's the effect on them? Well, it's stress, it's sleepless nights, it is fear of losing their jobs. It's
their companies or
their
whatever their
business.
Yep.
And so if you look deeper to that level, that's where you start to make the emotional connection. Because what do they need? Well, they need something or someone to save them. And I think first you got to save them. And then you need to make them look like the hero. But if they don't feel secure that they're going to survive, they're never going to believe that there's a potential to be a hero.
Yeah. Yeah, it's your Gandalf or your Yoda kind of just grabbing them. Okay, you're on firm ground. Now go and fulfill your quest, kind of thing. Definitely, and it's just all there. I'm just trying to figure out what that is and cycle around on it. And Rob's probably seen the iterations of my posts on LinkedIn over the last 6 months and that how it's evolved and trying to make it more so that way.
Well, you're trying to make yourself a lovable engineer.
It's a tough sell.
That's a tough sell.
Everybody loves the engineer show up.
But you know what?
A good new brand.
To Brad's comment, and also to Devin's comment, is that emotional piece. You need to understand that if you're going to be able to market to the people you need. And I love the fact that you're following the story brand idea, right? Because you've got to make them the hero of the story. Yeah. I mean, that's something Brad and I we grapple with all the time, is how do we make them the hero of the story? And it's an important piece of it, because if you make them the hero, they're going to want to hire you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, so I think it sounds like, based on what you're describing, you're really kind of partway down that road of testing out first the micro messages and figuring out which are the right messages and which are the right messages for the right micro audiences that
Yeah.
you really want to go after.
The challenge that I have, and I know I've chatted with Brad or Robert about it in the past, is, you know, and that's the great medium to long-term strategy. I need sales now, though.
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
I need cash, right? Like this is, you know, and I'm trying. That's why I'm trying this shotgun approach, because I need to make some sales that are local, because, you know, I'm teaching virtually to groups in Qatar, but it's not consistent. It's not local. I want some people here that I can have some longer term stuff with.
Well, and you know, funny enough, I would argue that the shotgun approach, the longer you do the shotgun approach, the more people remember you or recognize you. So you're still doing the same process, but you're doing it and being angry that it's not working at first. And then when it does finally kick in, you're like, see, I told you it works.
Yeah, but I think
awareness.
Your model really is, you start with the shotgun approach, but by using data and
You
figuring out
find
what
which one's the
works,
most.
the approach takes you from a shotgun to a rifle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and data. I track data. I'm a good engineer. I know how to. I got my data.
Data's your middle name.
Data, Excel. We're like this.
An important part of this whole process is, before people will even understand what you do, they need to know that you're there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why the shotgun approach. I mean, I'm utilizing a partial shotgun approach in my marketing.
Yeah.
Which is twice a week. I'm doing these little postcards, if you will. You've probably seen them.
Yeah.
Right. And the reason I'm doing that is strictly awareness.
Yeah.
Strictly, I don't expect to get any business out of it. All I'm trying to do is get people out there knowing that, hey, this guy is talking about this issue over and over and over and over again. Right. It you know, eventually it gets through to some people, but you can't use that as your only approach.
No. Yeah, and I'm doing that one that our friend Peter talked about the other day, of I come off a call like this and I'm like, hey, you know, just got off a mini mastermind with this guy, or, you know, coffee with this guy, right? And so just I mean, your name shows up in the feeds then constantly.
Well, let me so Robert, let me kind of add to that, though, because in a sense you are targeting, because, you know, when we first talked 2 years ago, it was kind of general business consulting. And if you look at where we're at today, it is much more laser focused to, you know, small, medium-sized businesses that 3 to 15 million in annual revenue, that have, you know, basically boomer owners, that 55 to 75-year-old owners. So you think about that, and it's become much more focused. You know, for you, Ben, my suggestion, if you don't mind, is where is the money being spent right now? When you look at construction, when you look at building the kind of projects you're doing, where is the money being spent? Because, like you said, for everyone, you know, got to generate cash flow. Well, shotgun's going to be really broad. And for me, you know, entrepreneurship 101 is see need, fill a need, but where's their money?
Yeah. I mean, a shotgun will get you a duck, but a rifle will get you a moose.
But where
I got both in the closet.
Perfect.
and this is where your market intelligence, where are the mooses? You know, because right now,
don't know. That's what I don't know.
Construction in Alberta ain't looking good.
I know. That's why I'm trying to pivot out a little bit.
Construction in Vancouver, central BC. So right now, you know, Ontario, and one of our clients is on construction, smart building enabling technology. And all of their major clients I've interviewed, focus of the work's all Ontario, and some on the West Coast.
and
Yep.
infrastructure too, right? There's going to be some infrastructure projects coming.
Well, and I know 3 engineering firms who just bought other engineering firms are doing a ton of M&A, and all their acquisitions are in the infrastructure area.
Yep. And I've targeted a few of those wastewater engineering companies because I do have some experience in that industry, and so it's um, yeah, it's lots of contacts. We're trying to.
So I think narrowing it down to those areas that actually have money or will have money. Trudeau, I'm not sure. 6 months ago, he talked about the government putting together a plan for $600 billion of infrastructure spending over the next 20 years. Now, even if half that's, viable, then that, money, an old friend of mine used to say, money doesn't talk, it screams.
Yeah. Part of the challenge that I know that I have, and I'm sure, by extension, you in a sense, is we need to find out where our customers are actually spending their time. What are the media outlets that they're actually spending their time paying attention to, whether is it social media? Is it radio? Is it television? Is it something else? We don't know. And that's part of the challenge we've got. Baby boomers are not particularly tuned in to the technology, social media piece, as well as the younger people are. We need to find out where they're being tuned into. Is it radio? Is it something?
So
we don't know.
one of the things that we actually looked into was where the older demographics of people are, and Acorn stair lifts. This is one of the brands that we've worked with. So the bigger problem was not should you do this or should you do that? It was, where is all the attention? And everybody's first idea is that older generations aren't on social media, but actually what ended up happening was with Facebook specifically, it started out as the younger crowds, the college kids, and then it slowly but inevitably evolved to actually now the old people are on here and all the young people have left and they're on places like Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of graveyard of young kids accounts on Facebook, and their actual reach now I think is 2.8 billion active users. That's not including the bots and the fake nonsense. That's their active user count right now. So there's a huge opportunity, and the problem is now is what content gets their attention, what content gets them involved and makes them want to participate in whatever conversations are being had. I love the water cooler effect.
Holding up their grandchild and saying, hey, do you want to make sure you can help them out after you've retired because you actually have some money from selling your business?
What's your legacy?
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. There's this trend of marketers who are marketing to marketers, and rather than using the cliche, Brad, I know you get that one. Rather than using the cliche like banners or flashy things, they've hacked the system, and what they're doing now is they're just sharing like a picture of them and their daughter on a fishing trip, or a father-son duo, or just a guy out on the beach, like just regular photos. But then when you read the headline, because you're like, I don't know this person. So it creates this pattern interrupt, and then you interact with it. And I found actually just kind of monitoring that as a case study, for the last about 3 months, it's been happening. It seems to be working, but that will inevitably, evolve to people will catch on and ignore that too. But
Just becomes noise.
yeah,
I tend to think that I flow where the algorithm is friendly. Like if I had a piece of content that I put it out there, to me, Twitter feels like sponge toffee, and every platform on its way up feels like there's a life cycle where the algorithm, they're building, and then they flip the script and they become a data company as opposed to like, a social company, a data company, because they can mine. But I also think there's a life cycle to that, and users, like I deactivated my Facebook, and I'm a heavy user for 9 years, heavy Facebook user. I told my wife, I was like, I got served an ad for a sex doll. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to rethink my life. and I deactivated. So that energy is flowing a little bit more over to LinkedIn, and I really am a fan of LinkedIn's algorithm. You could post, and if it engages, it's still alive 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
But I like to think that the companies themselves, it's like, if you think you're too big to fail, screw over your clients repeatedly, and the market will tell you if you're too big to fail. It's hard to comprehend Facebook dying.
Goodbye Sears, goodbye Zellers, goodbye Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Even J.C. Penney, some of these other, like, they're big companies.
Well, that's just the retail apocalypse. But I just, as another side, I had a summer job. Before AHS, I was underemployed, and I was bleeding out. And a good friend of mine, a structural engineer who's an amazing entrepreneur, he always was like, I'll hire anybody on a 3-month contract because it takes me 3 or 4 people to find a keeper. And his entrepreneurial spirit, there's no conversation I ever had with him that didn't begin or end with a calculator or him like doing a spreadsheet and running some numbers, which is an attribute that I don't have, but I envied him. And I was in his business making cold calls in 2017. Imagine that, literally all day, just making cold calls, trying to set up business development appointments for him to talk about structural engineering. And it worked. And the fact that it worked was so instructive to me about like relationships and mediums and tools that are a means to an end to establish relationships and trust. But he didn't have a LinkedIn. He didn't have anything. But I went with him and watched him like talk to people. And it was like, his dad was an insurance salesman. And I thought a lot of his attributes came from just knowing how to talk to people and asking them. Like his old man, if you were in a conversation with him for 1 minute, he would ask you just straight up, how much coverage do you have? Like, just anyways. So I'm fascinated by like a little bit of the resurgence of, you know, the relevance of direct mail, because, you know, the landscape, there's new, you know, all the prophecies of the paperless office, or all the prophecies of VCRs are going to kill the movie theater. But eventually news settles down into an equilibrium, and relationships and trust eventually rule the day. And people who can work the phone, like what I found out was that there was business development people on the other end of the line, and they were accountable to make those connections. So it wasn't like, you know, breasting somebody's dinner up to sell cell phone plans. It wasn't that hard. Anyways.
The other thing too is people want to work with people that they like. So relate back to your comment there about relationships. You have to create and build relationships, or they're not going to do work with you. But the order to get there, you've got to get in front of them. And to get in front of them, you have to have a reason for them to talk to you. And that's kind of where we're getting at here, right?
Yeah, it's where are they congregating? What are their groups that they're in? You know, are they in skeet shooting groups and we go and hang out there? Are they in fishing groups, or are they in target shooting groups? This is where our martial arts groups. These are things that I do. So are they in those groups or not? Or where are they at? So it's and then we can have conversations with them, provide value, and then they know, like, and trust you, and then we can go. Yeah. And then we can start offering and doing business with them.
Okay, so Brad, I refuse to curl, so that's on you, buddy.
Okay, so I need to kind of bring us somewhat to a close. So great discussion, guys. In the presentation, which we'll share, are some other tools and just some other samples of what Devin's been talking about. Just kind of how to structure campaigns, samples of for some different sectors, some models around content, and why some things catch on. There's a great article and a link here for video. But bottom line for all of us is, for growth marketing, we need to, you know, back to the old funnel. We need to get exposure to a lot, and then bring it down to the ones that we can influence to actually make the decisions and become customers. So I need to close it off. What I'm going to have in the presentation that you can download, these links are to actual other resources, a combination of YouTube and articles of things that can kind of reinforce what we've been sharing. And then one thing I wanted to put out there, and we'll do this offline, we'll do it through LinkedIn and other things, is we're thinking of putting together a once a month growth marketing mastermind group. So maybe thinking about starting to build a group of people really kind of interested and focused on growth marketing, and having kind of a regular meeting, kind of 1.5 hours, to do that. So if you guys think that's of interest, please get back to us, and we'll look at getting something like that organized. And we can continuously add to the group if there's others you think might be interested. But I wanted to close off. I want to thank everyone for your input and your involvement and taking up the time. What I'd like to do is I'll just do once more around the table and just give everyone a final word. My contact information, Devin's contact information is on here as well. But Aaron, I'm going to start with you. Any last words to close off?
Thanks for allowing me to pop in. I felt I don't know, about as the digital equivalent of walking into a strange room, but it's exciting. And my business development strategy has just been the first hits free since I started this.
Yeah.
And I have had really a lot of fun with it. Sometimes I have the bad habit of trying to predict and judge which contacts and prospects are going to progress, but I've sort of since given that up and just said, just plant seeds, just plant them. And because sometimes, which means sometimes walking into strange rooms is the best thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Anyways, and but I also appreciate your insights. Brad, you strike me as being an exceptionally good listener and distiller, and I appreciate everybody listening to me in this age of attention spans being eroded to 8 seconds on TikTok or whatever. I appreciate you listening and demonstrating your listening skills on my behalf. So thank you.
Aaron, be better stories, man.
Ben, final thoughts?
Yeah, just great, guys. Glad to join. Marketing is always on the forefront of my mind right now, obviously, and glad to help refine and refocus that and how to get where I need to go. So yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Michael?
Thanks. Well done, guys. Yeah, a couple things. There's always a lot more to add and input, but as along the path that you were talking about too, and as you know, Brad, Jim Collins, good to great. It's like, fire bullets before you throw the cannonball out there first, versus throwing the cannonball. In a marketing crew, there's always test and try again, but you got to measure it, and what gets measured gets done and gets you the results that you need. And we find that short video content works really well for us. We're lucky to have a couple actresses that are well known that do it for free or become shareholders, but people have that attention span. And as someone has coined, and we're kind of getting around that, especially in today's digital era, it's Google apocalypse, right? You get hit, hammered from all over the place. And those who used to send 1 email a week now send you 5 a day. So what message is going to get out there consistently and deliver the results that you're looking for in the back end? And that's the fun challenge that we all have. So, but anyways, love the approach today, and I think that was well done, guys.
Yeah,
Thanks, Michael. Robert?
extremely well done. Really love the content, and it's relevant, and it's something we can all take something away from today, I think, and use. Well done, Devin. Well done, Brad.
Yeah, thank you guys for showing up and hearing us out through all of this. I do really appreciate your time.
I'm gonna get some more people coming. So
Yeah.
Devin, do you want to finish off for today?
Sure, yeah. Anything that you guys are doing inside of your marketing or just organization growth, if there's insights or anything that you guys need in that respect, I'd love to just make myself available to have those conversations with you. So I'll put that on the table, and moving forward, if there's any just kind of vagueness or questions that you guys have, then we'd love to just kind of get to the bottom of that too. So again, one more time, thank you so much for being here, guys.
thanks for presenting. Awesome stuff.
Thanks, everyone. Greatly appreciate everyone's participation, and have a fantastic weekend.